Rogue typically had a pretty good matchup versus Warrior, but a lot of people are saying otherwise. They're saying that this Rogue deck doesn't have very good matchup against Warrior, and I was curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the general opinion, and I would agree with this opinion, is that Rogue doesn't do that well against Warrior just because of the armor up. If Warrior can somehow deal with the board of the Rogue, then the Rogue can't continuously get in damage from the minions on board. And thus, if the Rogue armor, or if the Warrior armors up to something like 40 or 50 HP, then the burst of the Rogue won't be able to go through all the armor of the Warrior player.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the armor because it seems to be such an important issue with this. Is Shield Maiden one of the cards that just gave them so much extra gas in terms of the actual armor leverage, or was it something else? Was it like the loss of Gadget and Auctioneer that prevented them from being able to have such high burst at the end game?
Yeah, I guess Shield Maiden is a card, right? Shield Maiden is it's a minion that develops the board and gives you armor, and I feel like that's one thing the Warrior has been missing the entire time. Of course, this matchup is all about board control, so wow, so much armor.
Yeah, second Armor Smith, really strong draw here. And Amaz is just already looking like he's able to start running away with this game. You can actually just see Massan. He's so upset with the draw that just happened because he's got to deal with this board position now. And actually, Amaz's hand, if there's one kind of hand I think that Massan can kind of deal with, it's this one where there's no weapons available. There's nothing like an Executor or a Shield Slam that's going to be going into this. Oh my gosh, he draws a second Sludge Belcher though. So 2 Sludge Belcher is going to be in front of these Armor Smiths though. I like running in the Cruel Taskmaster here too. I think it's really heads up.
Yeah, it just sets up the board so that the Lotha won't be able to trade cleanly with the Sludge Belcher. They'll pretty much trade 1-for-1, but a Sap will get used. Sap, obviously a very great tempo swing card, trading 2 mana for the 5 mana of the Sludge Belcher, and he'll be able to even take down an Armor Smith with that as well.
Yeah, lots of good stuff going forward here. But still, I mean, looking at his hand, he's got like Violet Teacher, and he's got a bunch of utility cards left. And he has almost no pressure onto Amaz right now. Amaz is at 39, and his hand's just stacked right now. How is Massan going to actually win this game if it gets to that level? Like, what does he actually have to do to start putting together a board position here?
Yeah, I think the Violet Teacher will help a lot, but Sludge Belcher is one of the natural enemies of Rogue players that want to burst down the opponent. So he'll have to not only get past this one Sludge Belcher, but a second one as well.
Yeah.
Massan is doing very well at developing the board, but Amaz will have a second Sludge Belcher to contest this Violet Teacher in the coming turns.
I like that he's clearing out the Sludge Belcher here with Mana Knives in preparation and his dagger instead of using his other sap just to get extra stuff on the board. Oh wow, Amaz picks up Execute right off the top. And yeah, look at this armor total. This is exactly what you were talking about. So this matchup, I feel like now that I'm watching it unfold a little bit more and kind of understanding what's happening, like both these players I think have had pretty decent draws, all things considered. Even though Amaz's was like, he's got these 3 really clunky cards in his hand. I feel like Sprint is just such a big difference in this matchup. I feel like when Rogue doesn't draw Sprint, it's actually kind of at a major disadvantage, and that when it draws Sprint, it's got a pretty good chance to win.
Yeah, exactly. Some Rogue players, in fact, I believe a majority of Rogue players actually keep Sprint in their opening hand against Warriors, and against Priest, against any matchup that tends to be going the control matchup. And speaking of Sprint is drawn. I guess that was a pretty huge draw.
Yeah, that was a pretty significant one right now. Preparation, there's a second one. Oh my gosh, and he picks up a Sharp Sword of Oil. Now, this is like one of those turns where I feel like he's got so many different lines of play, and it's just a matter of how he wants to approach it. I think I would prefer to sap here. Yeah, he's going to go with that. I think this is one of the reasons he didn't use that sap earlier on the other Sludge Belcher, by the way. It was because when he gets into a scenario like this, and he doesn't have sap, he's going to fall so far behind on the board.
Yeah, Warrior is known for just having so many bombs, so many 8-9 mana minions, even minions such as Dr. Boom. And if you use both your saps early on in the game, your opponent can just freely throw down these legendaries on the board, these huge legendaries, and not be afraid of sap whatsoever.
Yeah.
One other thing that's so great about that sap is that because there's also a Violet Teacher token on the board right now, Amaz will be reluctant to throw down the Ragnaros again. So probably going to be a different play than the Ragnaros that was just sapped.
Yeah. I think I'd probably like to see a lead with Fiery War Axe and then evaluate. Oh, he's going to go Dr. Boom. I imagine he's just going to armor up. Oh no, he's going to Fiery War Axe anyway. And Then he attacks. Oh, this is... Okay, so why do you think he's doing it in that order? Is he just playing around Mana Wraith?
Yeah, I think Mana Wraith is the only one that would be worse. Like you could play around Doomsayer or things like maybe Explosive Sheep by attacking it first. But I guess yeah, this plays around Mana Wraith.
Yeah, I think that's what he was going for. So if Loot Hoarder's going to jam in there, I imagine this is going to be Blade Flurry this turn. So 4 more to the face. Yeah, he's going to clear this all out. He's just too low. I don't think he can afford to leave everything there.
No, but with this play, I think Massan knows that a Ragnaros will almost certainly come down on the board.
Yeah.
Amaz could even attack the rogue player to get him down even lower.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He just picked up a second Fiery Orax. So Massan's, he's going to drop down to 4 here. He's got Earth Ring Farseer in his hand, but that's not going to put him out of Ragnaros range. And this hand is not looking like it's really going to get it done, but let's take a look and see. Can't afford to attack the Ragnaros. Has basically just enough damage.
Yeah, Massan is he's going to try to put as many minions on the board so Ragnaros might not hit him the next turn in the face.
I think that's a good call. And I think does he need to hold the dagger back and hope to draw Blade Flurry next turn? How does he activate this Tinker Sharpsword though? Oh my gosh, the second shielding gets picked up.
Yeah, he has a choice now between the Shield Maiden and the Sledge Belcher. I think I like the Sledge Belcher better too, actually.
I think so.
It prevents any Blade Flurry shenanigans for next turn.
Ragnaros shot could just end the game right here. Oh, and it goes to face. Wow, so game 1's just gonna end straight away. Not like it's a huge Ragnaros hit or anything. Amaz had a pretty big stranglehold on that game. Just had everything available to him. That game snowballed so quickly in favor of Warrior, and that's like it's such a big power swing that you have when you go turn 2 Armorsmith, turn 3 Acolyte, turn 4 Cruel Taskmaster, and a second Armorsmith. What kind of draw even beats that?
Yeah, again, like what the Rogue needs to do to win that matchup is to maintain board control. But when the Warrior draws that kind of opening with the double Armorsmiths, Acolyte, and Cruel Taskmaster, that's just like such an excellent opening. He even had the Fire War Axe early game, so everything went poorly for the Rogue in the beginning. Even though the Rogue drew the sprint in the later rounds of the game, it just wasn't enough to come back.
Yeah. So Amaz's Warrior, it's going to be locked now. Again, this is Conquest format, so when you win with a deck, it becomes locked instead of when you lose with a deck. So Massan still has access to his Rogue deck. Amaz has got Druid and Hunter left, and Massan has got Rogue, Druid, and Paladin. Do you think he's going to stick with his Rogue deck?
This Rogue, I think because there's a Paladin, hold on, let me check the lineups again.
Amaz has got Druid and Hunter left, and Massan now has Rogue, Druid, and Paladin.
You know, there's one weakness of players who played in the Root tournament it's that whenever they lost with a deck, they would just keep queuing and queuing with it again. And I think like there's different arguments to be made about what strategy you use going on after you lose the first game. Do you keep queuing the same deck because it's a bit more predictable, or do you switch to a different deck which gives your opponent more information in later rounds?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the thing I would weigh the most is just which one of my decks matches up best versus the 2 decks my opponent has left. And this is sort of like the purpose of Conquest, was to design matches to be more even and to have sort of better comeback mechanics for players who are behind already. Is that even though they're down a game, it's not a huge disadvantage being down a game instead of like having only 2 decks left to deal with. Like say that your ace in the hole lost to their best deck. Like it's not just gone anymore and you're like, oh well, I needed this to be able to win.
It's actually Massan's actually going to choose a different deck. I guess he doesn't believe his Rogue is as well equipped to deal with Amaz's remaining decks, which are Druid and Hunter, as the Paladin. And I think this is a good choice. Paladin, it can deal pretty well with Druid, and it can deal pretty well with Hunter. It's just a very controlling class, whereas the Druid and Hunter will try to be more aggressive and kind of burst or just take the Paladin down.
I'm curious what kind of Paladin build this is exactly. If he's going to be having stuff like Knife Juggler and wow, he actually throws away a muster for battle.
I think that's fine because you can kind of be you kind of want more tools in your deck or in your hand actually, and maybe his deck is more lowering curve. It leans towards a more lower curve, so it has zombie chows, it has knife jugglers. He might just be hoping to draw those lower curve cards instead.
I don't think so. There's knife juggler. I gotta believe that's coming down this turn.
It looks so good against this 4-3, but as we can see from Amaz's hand, a Wrath is going to come down.
Amaz's hand, it's been such a strong start with the turn 1 Pilot Shredder, but this hand has got no action in it, and he's going to need to draw something super important to be able to pull through this. And Amaz has got to feel ugly. I'm sorry, Massan's got to feel ugly about the attack here. It just has no real answer to this Piloted Shredder right now. And Amaz picks up an Azure Drake, but still no turn 3 or turn 4 play yet.
Yeah, Savage Roar doesn't really accomplish anything that the hero power wouldn't. I guess it gets a bit more damage in, but you already had the Force of Nature in hand, so
yep.
I guess you might as well save it. Not only does Amaz not draw a turn 3 play, but he also doesn't have a turn 4 play right now.
Yeah. You know, Massan's play isn't that much better, though. He's just having to consecrate.
Oh.
Gosh, and Amaz gets Millhouse Mana Storm off the Pilot Shredder. His minion just upgraded after taking 3 damage. And Massan took 4 damage from that attack, too.
Yeah, and he had to blow a Consecrate, which is definitely... Consecrate on 1 minion, definitely not the most efficient use. Not only did he blow a Consecrate, but Shade of Naxxramas is immediately drawn. And Amaz can safely play it, knowing that 1 Consecrate at least has been drawn.
We have a Quartermaster here. Gosh, this board is rough. He's down to 10 from just a turn 1 Piloted Shredder. 20 points of damage have been dealt by that minion. That is insane. Yeah, and Amaz just has no reason to unveil this Shade right now. He's content with just sitting still and letting nature run its course.
If Massan needs a Lucky Juggle. He doesn't get any Lucky Juggles, and he has to trade both his minions into the Azure Drake. He can't take any more face damage.
Yep.
And I believe that's game.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I count 9 damage. Oh no, he's got the Force Nature. I wasn't even considering Force Nature as just 6 damage. I was like, no, this has to be held in your hand until you combo. Wow, Amaz quickly takes game 2 off of that Piloted Shredder. And Massan, he's not looking too happy about that one. Wow, what on? And he's got 3 games to try to win 1 time with Hunter. And we kind of saw this in the ESL where Chalky had Hunter as his last deck, and he had to win 1 or 2 games with it. And he was playing against a Warrior too. So he's playing Face Hunter versus a Warrior, which is traditionally thought to be like one of the worst matchups that Face Hunter could have. And he had to win 1 or 2 games. First game, you know, he had a chance to win, didn't work out for him. Second game, he had a chance to win, and it did work out for him. What kind of mindset is Massan gonna have to approach for this to make sure he doesn't lose his cool, that he's making the right decisions, and that he's not just like, oh, well, that's Hunter, and Hunter beats you sometimes.
Yeah, I think Massan just has to hope he gets a little lucky in every single game from now on. And as you can see from the opening hand from Massan, he is pretty lucky right now with 2 Innervates in his hand. Exactly what you want as the tempo card you need to take control from the Hunter player.
I actually like going Shade of Naxxramas here over the Pilot Shredder. And for 2 major reasons. Number 1 is this is much less soft to something like Iron Begal. And the second one is it allows him to keep his coin and effectively develop the same kind of board presence. He would have gotten an attack with Pilot Shredder this turn. Wow, he draws Keeper of the Grove, though.
Yeah, not only is it more soft to something like Iron Begal, but it's way more soft to something like Glaive Zuka, right?
Yeah.
And from the opening turn, which was Clockwork Gnome, you can't be completely sure about what type of hunter this is, whether it's a face hunter or if it's like a more controlling hunter.
Right. This is this is looking pretty brutal.
Yeah, exactly. 2 Innervates plus a Keeper plus a Shade. Like, these are 2 creatures that you want to innervate out more than anything else. The Keeper 2/4 body is especially relevant because usually the 2/4 isn't that great against most minions, but against all of the early game Hunter minions, it's just so golden. Against Knife Juggler, it trades perfectly. Against the Haunted Creeper, it can just it can take out the original body and it can take out the spectral spiders that come out. Just everything is going to be denied by that keeper in the first few turns.
Develops bow and just passes. And this looks like that Massan is going to start chipping away at these tokens. Goes ahead and unveils the shade here. That's actually really interesting. Why is he choosing to pick off these tokens with a shade? Is it just because he has so much board presence, so he doesn't really care how his opponent chooses to allocate his removal?
I think that's a part of it. Maybe another part of it is that there's just so many minions on the board that bow can deal with. So he's like, okay, I don't care. You can just hit any of these creatures with my bow, with your bow, and I'll be fine with it.
So Amaz choosing to do that. 2 points of damage to face. So Amaz's hand, it's kind of showing that he's actually not Face Hunter with Lotheb and Black Knight. Does Massan still know what's going on here, or do you think he's still kind of lost on what exactly what kind of hunter deck this is?
I think judging by the cards that Amaz has played, I guess he can't be completely sure. The Hunter's Mark is a card that we don't see as much from Face Hunters as we see from Control Hunters. But I think also judging from the fact that the bow has gone to minions every single turn, it could be, Massan could suspect that. It could more suspect that it's more of a Control Hunter. Lotheb comes down, and that's just a typical Control Hunter card, not a Face Hunter card, though.
Yeah. What do you think about reversing switching this Harrison here? Make sure it doesn't trade for the Lotheb perfectly.
I think that's fine, but Admirable, aren't you the guy who says, like, you should probably go to face more often than not? And Amaz kind of followed your mantra of going to face that turn.
Yeah, I think I would have gone to face, but I think I would have considered using the reversing switch as well. Just so on the back trade, he either has to have something like Wrath or Savage Roar or Swipe, or uses hero power to take out the Lotheb. So he attacks 5 to face, but then he uses the reversing switch to make Harrison the 4/5 instead.
Yeah,
that's what I was looking at.
I think that's very fair. We've actually seen like 2 Black Knights from Amaz's decks. It's in the Warrior deck, it's in the Hunter deck, and it might even be in the Paladin deck, or rather the Druid deck that
oh my gosh,
that Amaz is running.
Oh my gosh! Oh, and he taunts it up. Oh my god, that's exactly the kind of turn that Amaz was looking for.
Yeah, Massan is gonna be pretty sad right now. It's exactly what Amaz needed. The Black Knight comes down, trades the 4/5 minion for a 4/6 minion, and the Druid of the Claw falls immediately.
Wow, 6 points of damage out of that. Mad Scientist comes down. This is just... It felt like this game was so good for Massan, and just Black Knight turned everything around, and now he's even drawn Wild Growth on turn 8. I mean, this is basically just a dead card right now.
You know what? I think it was not only the combination of, it was not only Black Knight, but it was also the Hunter's Mark that gave Amaz such a huge advantage. Massan used a lot of 0 mana cards to get tempo in his favor with the double innervates, but Hunter's Mark was also another 0 mana spell that caused for a huge tempo swing and allowed the Spectral Spider to trade into a 3 health creature. So that was also pretty huge and a huge part of Amaz's comeback.
A lot of damage getting added to this board, and these are tough minions to kill with Pilot Shredder and the Haunted Creeper. And Massan's going to need something like Swipe if he's going to climb back into this game. He's down to 9, and he's got combo in his hand. And it's not quite enough. It's 20 points of damage right now. And that's if the trap isn't relevant, which it is, the freezing trap. So I got to believe that's 5 extra health. 9, 10, 11. He's facing down 12 points of damage. Wow, Amaz has a few draws in his deck that are lethal. Is that one of them?
Yeah,
I think it is. Yep, that looks like just enough to me.
Wow. Yeah, even the reversing switch.
Oh, it's 1 over because of the reversing switch. Ha! Look at that. Amaz is gonna win 3 games to 0 in Conquest with just fantastic. Even that opening though. That opening looked to me like Amaz was way behind.